Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Weekly Spark. Today's going to be drastically different from the sparks that I've done so far during this year. The overarching theme today is definitely color palettes and harmonious colors, analogous colors, color harmonies, and colors that I think really kind of sing together. But I'm currently preparing for a show this Saturday, and I also have a commission of necklaces for a friend of mine that will be paired with her sterling silver work at the Maryland Renaissance Festival. Her business name is Echo and Wild, and so if you get a chance to go to the festival, make sure to check out her magical and mythical hand-carved and hand-cast sterling pendants. So having said that, I've been at the bead table all week and for the rest of the week as well, so I haven't been at the art journaling table much at all. So I wanted to show you some of the palettes of gemstone beads and pearls that I've been working on, and then I wanted to show you some journal pages from the past, but where the color palette was kind of the main driving force of the page. So let me grab the camera and turn this around and show you some of what I call the bead soup that I have on the table. So this first blend is kind of purples and greens and golds. And they're not colors that I normally would wear in clothing, but they're so delicious together. And so you can see this strand that's been strung just in a beautiful random assortment, and a bead soup that I have left over for future projects. Moving on, we have like a purple, green, and blue, which feels very, very oceanic to me. There's lapis lazuli, there's apatite, there's chrysocolla, there are pearls. So all different gemstones mixed into these blends. Last here in these dishes, I have a very autumnal mix of citrine and garnet and chrysocolla and smoky quartz. And again, when I make these gemstones, I make a large amount, and then I always have extras. The bead table is a mess. There's trays and crimps and wire and, of course, coffee. But I have a few other blends waiting to be done. A lot of garnets and labradorites, which are going to look more fiery and more exciting once they're strung and have sunlight hitting them. This one on the end may be my favorite. It's kind of a celadon, sagey green, silvery green palette. So as you can see, my plate is extremely full, and although I miss my art journal terribly, such is life, that demands and schedule take precedence. Let me move on over to the art journal table, and then let's talk palette on a few different art journal pages. This one was done specifically for one of my art journal classes, where we wanted to start with a palette and do a page inspired by it. And the palette that I was inspired by was just a photograph I had taken on my iPhone of a blooming African violet, which is a plant that I actually have some success, knock on wood, growing, and also reminds me of my mom. So this was kind of a very fabulous page inspired by that color palette. Left to my own devices, I'm always drawn to blues and greens, well, jewel tones, so maybe some amber and honey tones, as well as maroon and wine. But I also am aware of how the color and the palette can change the mood of a page. This feels a little bit moody to me, not only because of the eyes, but also with some of the text that I've written into the page. This was from an art history book, and I did tint the eyes. And then on the flip page, this is a very cool palette and a very muted palette. And the flip page has something so much warmer. It has very much a different feel to it, both in subject matter, but also in just the vibe of the page, just the feeling of the page. There's a little person, there's a journey reference. But again, even when I'm using these warm tones, they tend to be this more earthy honey color. This was a bit wine, but got a bit pinker when it was actually on the page. Just a few others, a very short video today since I do need to get back to the bead table. This page, yes, it's sideways, I know, but I'm going to zoom in and show you a few things. This also almost felt like a piece of jewelry to me, right? Because we have all of these bluish grays, these kind of greeny olives. To me, they scream labradorite, which is one of my favorite gemstones. And then there's this copper metallic over top. So, yes, there was a metallic because I was modifying a handbag ad, and so I was turning the handbag into what my allegorical figure was carrying, trying to seek balance between all of these different aspects of her life. Yet looking at it now, since I've been working with gemstones for the last couple of days, it feels very much like it is related to jewelry to me. This one, if we're talking about jewelry and gemstones, well, this would be straight up moonstone and amethyst and maybe a little labradorite and silver and aquamarine and all those pastel colors in that cooler, crisp tone. So again, the pastels are normally not my palette, but this was very thematically related to winter and snow, and so it was perfect for the feel of the page that I was trying to create. One last one, of course, my favorites, not only hairs, but these turquoise, apatite, amazonite, all these gemstone colors that come to mind. These are some of my favorite colors and definitely one of my favorite animals, but sometimes it's nice to sit down to do a page, and if you don't really have a plan, then just pull some colors that you like, either in scraps of paper or in mark-making materials. Maybe pull a stencil and then just play from there. Sometimes the process of taking it to the page can just be a pleasant experience using the materials and creating something that is pleasing for you to look at. If that's the case, then pull colors that you love. Start there. It can make your decisions easier when you're working on a page if you have a color palette limited, because then you might be deciding, which stencil you want to use, but you only have 3 colors pulled out, limiting your palette, and that makes those decisions a lot easier when you're kind of in the process and finding the flow on the page. So hopefully this has given you some ideas about playing with color and possible color palettes. Again, a very different video for you this week, but I hope that it might inspire a chance for you to take it to the page in some fashion, and I look forward to seeing you next week. As always, do the YouTube things and like and subscribe. Have an excellent week, and I will see you for next week's Weekly Spark.